In this video, I want to talk about making of the detective's dilemma. It's available now for free only on Spotify. It's Mike from Casefile and Casefile Presents. I'm releasing videos on podcasting. If you enjoy them, hit the like button. The idea for the podcast came from a BBC journalist, James Bray, who worked on a ton of documentaries and other projects. And he had access to recordings and interviews with Stephen Fulcher, the primary detective on the case, as well as the families and other persons involved in this case. If I'm not mistaken, the original interviews were recorded for a TV documentary. However, it was a short one, so there was a lot of material that was left over and never used. And James Bray had this idea to, turn it into a long-form podcast and do a deep dive into this case. And that idea struck a chord with our Casefile host, because we've released an episode on this case. And that was in the first year of Casefile, case 35, Operation Mayhem. And the case always sort of stuck on our minds. And this provided a fantastic opportunity to do a deep dive and produce, a sort of researched podcast on this story, not just one episode or short documentary. So we agreed to do it, and everyone was really excited, and everyone got to work. The producer, James Bray, created the sort of overall the arch of the story. So he had an idea for each of the episodes, but then we brought on Vicky Petritis, who's the Australian true crime writer and podcaster, and we've done Vanishing of Vivian Cameron, Searching for Sarah, Crime Interrupted with her. So she was then tasked with sort of writing the show as well. We got our Casefile host to narrate the show, but he helped to form these episodes as well. Anthony and I, we were tasked with prepping the dialogues and post-production. Anthony, our editor. As far as the recordings go, there weren't too much to do, because remember, all of that was already done for that TV documentary in the past. So we didn't have to go on location and re-interview all these people. There were a few pickups that Vicky wanted the detective Stephen Fulcher to do, so he's done some additional records for us. Initially, the material was edited by James Bray, the Bray producer, in a video software that he used to cut the video interviews and then export the audio from there. And then he sent it to Anthony, our editor, and because Vicky Petritis was looking at rewriting parts of these episodes, Anthony was working with the script when he was prepping the dialogues and to put the clips in right places. So that was a bit of work to do, and then cutting out the mistakes, the stutters, the fillers, so on. Casefile host, he recorded his narration in a vocal booth, so that was pretty straightforward actually. And then Anthony, he prepped gaps for the narration between the clips, and then he's just imported the narration into his sessions. Now, when he was done with that, he sent his sessions to me, and I looked at the pacing again. But it was pretty straightforward because there weren't that many people involved in as far as the dialogues go. I think it was maybe 10 in total, and maybe only in one episode it was like all of them. Usually it was 4, 5, 6 maybe, so that's not a lot. The one of the not issues but challenges that we had was that Stephen Fulcher, the main detective on the case, was recorded in different locations. Sometimes he was outside, sometimes he was inside, and some of the stuff I think recorded over the phone or Skype or whatever. So we couldn't just put all of his clips on one track and just treat it like it would be one, it's just Steven Fulcher. We had to create separate tracks for each instance, outside, inside, etc. So that was one of the things that we had to do. For the score, I want to do something a little bit different. And just before I start work on Detective's Dilemma, I got myself a complete 88. It's here behind me, just under the desk, the big piano/keyboard. And I also got the collector's edition Native Instruments, which pretty much covers majority of their libraries. So I want to use that primarily to learn them, as well as to create something different to what I usually do. And with this series, I had three main ideas. One was to have some music, classic noir, like film noir style, piano, acoustic bass, and some sax. Two, have some orchestral elements when there's tensions, percussions, strings ostinati, things like that. And then majority, the background ambience music would be experimental textures. So those were the three main ideas that guided me throughout. In the end, I wrote several cues, musical cues for the series as I was building my libraries, and then I've remixed them with different sounds and different sounding textures. Because I was learning how Contact works and Complete from Native Instruments, my sessions were a little bit more messy than usual. Well, a lot more messier than usual, especially when it comes to music creation. But it was fun. I was nervous to do it a little bit because, again, new libraries as well as experimenting with sounds a little bit, stepping out of my comfort zone. But it was a lot of fun. As far as the theme music goes, I've taken a bit of one of the cues, which I liked, and then remade it into like 30 seconds intro and outro theme. For the mix, I had this particular vision, this film noir kind of style. I think it works because when I was sending the drafts, Anthony said, well, it does kind of sound like a story told in a smoky detective's office. And that was exactly what I was going for. Now, to achieve that, I used Oxide, that's from Universal Audio. It's like a tape saturation plugin. And I also put a little bit of saturation on the dialogues. And, on the mix bus and on the master, I think. Not too much, just a little bit. So you cannot do as much with this type of stories. Like, it is very easy to go overboard and then make it sound cheesy. And I've used that, the sax and the acoustics and the textures, orchestral textures, to also keep that vibe going. I think it worked really, really well, but it was a fine balancing act because you can go overboard really quickly with these tools, with these plugins. Then we had some reenactments, some scenes that had to be narrated by Casefile host, and there was a scene between Detective Fulcher and Halliwell when they were having that discussion. We also had judges stating their cases and making their verdicts, and we also had other people that were reenacted by our Casefile host. And in this instance, I went with just simple filtering and a little bit of reverb just to make it sound distinct from the normal narration. So something sounds a little bit different, there is a quote, and so on. So that was a few instances when I done that. And yeah, that's about it. The rest was just pacing, work, as well as automation and, fitting the music there. I think draft 3 was nearly the final one. Like, it was 99% done. So that was good because I was a little bit nervous. Well, more than a little bit, but because went for an unusual approach with a little bit of that saturation as well as the music, stepping out of the comfort zone. I didn't know how this is gonna fare with the rest of the team, but gladly they did like it. So yeah, I was really happy about that. I finished majority of the work, like I say, draft 3 December 2021. The show was released in March 2022, but we had to wait for the legal approval. And once we got that green light, I could then have a listen to the show one last time and export the finals. Paulina, our designer, created a few different ideas for the artwork, but everyone liked the one with Detective Stephen Fulcher's his sort of face, well, half of his face on the logo. It fitted the vibe. It looked like this classic detective true crime story, so really, really good. We have not created the standalone website for this show, but rather went with a web page on our Casefile Presents website. The podcast was released on 14th of March 2022, and that was on Spotify for free, all episodes out at once. We've created some trailers as well as ads that we've posted on various channels, as well as Casefile feed to promote this series. And then we also had like a video trailer, like a video ad as well. And we worked with Spotify along the way to get it out, to get the podcast out. Well, the lessons are to try something new each time, because I was nervous about this show when I started working on it, and ultimately it ended up being, I think, my favorite so far. It's easy, after a few years of doing that, Casefile as well as other shows, I've got my habits, I got my templates. I know kinda how to make it work, and it's very easy to fall into these patterns, into these habits, and that's how things go stale and boring. And then when I step outside of that comfort zone, it's scary, because you don't know if it's gonna work or not when you try something new. So yeah, I got that native instruments bundle, as well as the new Complete 88, but also at that time I was watching, I bought some online courses from ThinkSpace Academy, I think they're called. I'll post a link in the video and description. They have online courses for music composers, and it's run by Guy Michelmore. He's a film composer. He's got a great YouTube channel that I watch. I was watching his courses on harmony and composition, and it inspired me to try something new. And this series came along, and I was like, okay, let's just try something a little bit different here. And so yeah, like I said, it is scary. It is always scary, because I'm not making it for myself. Like, there will be other people who has to approve it, and then they have to give you feedback on it. And then there's the general audience, the people who actually listen to the show. So, there's always a bit of anxiety about that. But there's no other way, in my view, to grow other than trying new things and learning new things. Do they always work? No, absolutely not. But I've got a system in place where I have feedback pretty much straight away from the team. So if something doesn't work, they let me know, and I have no qualms. I'll change it, I'll shake it up, rework it, because ultimately we are all working towards the same goal: producing great stories and great podcasts for the listener to enjoy. And so yeah, that was the biggest lesson I took from that project. Detective's Dilemma is out now for free, only on Spotify. Check it out. I'm sure you're gonna love it. I love it. It's a great podcast. And yeah, a very difficult to swallow story. Very infamous case here in the UK, but I think all around the world as well. Very controversial. So yeah, have a listen and let us know what you thought. But that's it. I'm Mike. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And yeah, I'll see you later in the next one.